to begin the session, I'm just going to tune into my posture right now. Make sure that I'm sitting nice and straight, and that my body is free of tension. I'll actually align my page more with my body so that the center line is lining up with my belly button. And now I'll tune into my breath and just see where that is right now. As I maybe feel out the page to get some sensation, body sensation, along with the breath. The breath will be an anchor through this whole practice, as we also explore other sensations and senses. I can start thinking about the colors I want to use in this. Just choosing my palette to go along with some of the colors in these tape, stickers and papers that I've picked out. I'm going to start with the very basic shapes here in the little design on the side. There are just some dots and arrows. These are great things to use as a warm-up for more drawing. I think that blue and yellow are going to be the sort of dominant colors of this, besides maybe some green for the cactus. But I think I'd like the dots to be yellow. So I'm just doing some simple circles here. I'm not worrying if I go outside the lines a little bit, because again, these nice little circles are a great way to warm up those wrist bones. And I kind of want to add this yellow up in my writing prompt, so I'm going to wander there now, because I think the word fireflies should be yellow. And I'm going to continue with the basic shapes. Even though this is a simple design, I still want to look at some of the underlying forms. So there's this big circle that I'm going to outline here that contains most of the design and the edge of that moon. And I actually had a little camera mess up here, so I lost my second shot and had to fix that. But so it goes. So continuing, I have a second circle here that I'm just going to outline, and that's going to make the pie shape, or little, I like to call these Cheshire smile moons. And I'll also do some basic circles around the stars, because that'll give them this easy glow effect. For my moon, I'm going to just outline that triangular crescent shape with some marker. Maybe add a couple of the little details. And then these cacti have very basic 2B shapes. And their little arms coming off of it. So I'll just outline those. If you want to add a little bit more weight, you can always do a slightly thicker line on the side that's kind of away from the moon, since that would be the light source. I'm kind of keeping this simple for myself, but there are options. I'm just going to loosely sketch in some of these lines. Now, I kind of want to add darker circles in blue around these stars. So that's going to be my main light and shadow play in this, is the moon and these little stars between yellow and blue. I'll fill in this moon with some brighter yellow. I know the moon isn't actually yellow, but that's okay. Sometimes the images we use to represent things aren't exactly the same as what they look like in real life. In real life, the moon also doesn't have cacti growing off it. And I kind of want it to be a bit brighter, so I'm going to add some marker. I'll let my marker do some heavy lifting in terms of adding some color here. That's what it's good at. Get those stars a little bit brighter too, or at least yellower. It's hard to make them brighter when they're already on a white page. So I'll just fill in these cacti, and again, you could do this in sort of a uniform color, or you can add a bit more shading away from the moon side and also where they overlap. But again, I'm just keeping this simple because it's a fairly simple design. And those little lines add a lot of depth and shape already. I'll keep adding a bit more blue here with some darker blue. And of course my big outside circle can be bluer. Kind of actually is serving as a bit of a frame too, in a way, which I like. I'm just going to lightly fill in the sky, but try and keep it within these circly shapes as well. So I'm kind of doing very small circly movements to keep everything looking very sketchy and almost that Van Gogh Starry Night kind of motion. Don't think of creating motion much with a still image, but those sketchy lines kind of makes it look like it's glowing a little, doesn't it? And, I think I'm jumping the gun here on getting some writing done. That prompt's pulling me in. I could add a little bit more yellow dots and go back to this idea of motion, because those circles create motion, but dots can also add a little bit of motion to the piece as well, like glitter or snowfall or rain or something, or just that weird effect where sometimes moisture in the air glistens. Maybe I could also pull out some of this motion a little bit more and use my slightly lighter and slightly greener blue. It's still very blue, but it's a little bit more towards the green side of things than the other blue I was using. And it'll interact with that yellow to create a bit more of that kind of motion between the two lights and darks that I'm using. And I could perhaps add some more dots as well with blue. The yellow ones are a little harder to see, so this will just pull that out a little bit more and give it more scintillating effect. Now, I think I'm approaching the point where I might think about switching over and doing some little reminders again to tune in, be mindful of my posture, become aware of my breath in and out. Any sensations I'm feeling now, and any other senses that exist in this present moment, like sounds or smells or tastes, before I get sucked back into the main sense that I'm exploring right now of sight. Just reestablish that link with my body and my breath. Maybe give a little stretch here. And reset before continuing. So, this font is outlined, but it ended up being a little bit small. So I'm actually cheating a little bit and letting my marker do a lot of heavy lifting, which honestly, that's kind of one of the nice things about having one of these journals with prompts in it, is you can let it do a bunch of heavy lifting for you. You don't need to be always doing every little bit. And that's why I set these up, is so that even on days where I'm rushed and busy, I don't feel like doing anything, having something already there that I can just, take a couple little stabs at with a marker. Very non-violent stabs with markers and pens. That just takes a lot of the pressure off and allows me to create without having to worry or add more stress to an already stressful day. Of course, the other way you can take some stress out is to just lower your expectations for what you do in a session or in a sit down to journal whenever you're not feeling very energetic or you're stressful for other reasons. You can kind of embrace the idea of scribbling or being messy. Make a statement. You can even write that in. Today I'm feeling tired, so this is gonna be messy. Why not? It's your journal. So this prompt to write whatever comes to mind about the first fireflies or cricket songs of summer. I'm just gonna let myself ponder that a bit while I go over the actual font and write that out. I don't always hear fireflies or crickets in the city. See fireflies or hear crickets in the city, rather. But I do go camping, and I did grow up out in the country, so I definitely remember a lot of cricket songs back on the farm, especially in the summer. So that's just what I'm going to write down here. That I don't think I've heard any crickets yet. If we're talking about the first cricket songs of summer as the first ones I hear this summer. But if I think back to the first time I heard cricket songs of summer, I can write about that. There's a few ways you can take first in this. And back on the farm, I always thought of them when it was hot out, and it sort of seemed like a mirage, like those wavy lines that you see above the road. And I actually maybe thought that was a sound that concrete made when it got so hot. Or maybe it was just the sound of a hot day. It wasn't until I got older and I realized, oh, there's a bug that makes that noise when it's really hot out. Or was that my honey who told me this story and it just seemed so real that it became one of my own? I don't know. You know how that can happen with some friends and partners and family members? They tell you something and you're like, oh yeah, I did that. And then later you're like, wait, did I? Or did that just seem so familiar or so plausible? So I don't even know anymore. But to continue with fireflies, I don't know if I've seen any of those yet either. If we're talking this summer. But the summer's still young. And I may go camping, so hopefully I'll see some when I do go camping with some friends later. We did see some in times previous, so I'm just gonna wander back to that memory for a bit. It's not the first time I had seen fireflies, but it's the first time that comes to mind because it was the first time that I caught one. And we took it back to our campsite so that we could let it loose inside of a screened gazebo, so that our friend's kid could see it. Love that word, gazebo. So, yeah, I still can't believe I caught that. Yeah. So yeah, does that even count as the first? Does that answer this question? Who knows? But I wrote about it, so check. I responded to the prompt. Those are the first fireflies that came to mind. I don't know if I remember the first fireflies that I ever saw in my life. I must have been too young to really remember. But those crickets were definitely the first crickets. I do very much remember hot cricket summers. It sounds like a National Lampoon movie for nature lovers. Hot cricket summer. I feel like the main character should be named Gazebo. So, to move on to the crafting part, once again, let's just check in with where our posture is right now. Take some nice breaths. And feel what that feels like in our body with our nice posture. And any other senses, like this sticker sticking to me a little bit. And now I'll just kind of start transitioning to take a look at what's going on with my page and how I might want to lay things out. I've pulled what themes I could for mimicking the prompt. I didn't have any actual fireflies, but I have this sort of candle-looking sticker and sort of light, almost looks like a firework, but I'm going to be thinking of it as little fireflies in my head. You can too. And I ticky-tackied them in here as I was putting them together, so I'm going to pull that apart now. One little trick I tend to use for ticky-tacky is to use it to pull other spots of it off. So once I get a little bead going, I'll kind of stick it to the next one like this, and that'll help pull it away because it really does like to stick to itself more than anything else. One thing I was doing a lot last season was using these doors to kind of make a little bit of a hidden area behind it for more writing. And I kind of want to try expanding that a little bit this time. Had to do a little camera fix there again. This is the first time I'm using this setup, so thank you for bearing with me. Hopefully it becomes much more natural in videos to come. But the first time I do anything, there's always a little bit of rockiness, and these videos are no exception. So I don't know where I want to put my door exactly. Kind of like the idea of it having the paper sort of, I might try and use them as like other parts and make a bigger door or bigger covered area. I'm kind of thinking of the whole thing as a door a little bit, because this is the functional element that I'm introducing with this. So this hidden area of writing, which isn't for privacy this time, since obviously I'm shooting this as a video and putting it out on YouTube, but it doesn't have to be for privacy. It can just be for fun, and that's what this door is going to be, is just kind of a fun way of using this space so that my collage doesn't have to compete with my art or my prompt. It can kind of be an overlay. You can also use collage pieces as frames, or you can use them to make pockets. There's all sorts of functional, very simple functional, but functional elements you can add to your journal with these. So I kind of like that arrangement. And I'm going to use some of my stronger tapes to stick that in. There's some sort of curvy areas to this door that I'm going to avoid, because if I stick the tape right over them, it will make it sort of weird to open. But I might add some little hinges up there after. It didn't end up perfectly straight, but I kind of like little areas of overlap because it creates different color areas. Like there's almost a little greenish happening between the blue and the yellow, which mimics the cactus spoon, the cacti in the moon over there. There, some little hinges up here. Maybe I'll tape down that one corner before I flip this over so I know exactly where I want it. Could even do some writing on the back side of this if I'm looking for extra space. I like that. That's fun. And it gives me more area to put some fun tape behind. So I'm going to do that. I have this planet tape just to add some more cosmic bodies to this piece. And there's these little constellations that correspond to astrology signs here that I'm gonna stick in a couple of to mimic that. And I'll just finish up here with a couple of these little stickers. You'll have to forgive me while I get the backing off. I've only ever got a little bit of fingernail to use for these. And I've tried using pincers like I've seen people use, or tweezers like I've seen some people use, and I just don't have the knack for it myself, so you just have to bear with my clumsy nails, especially on these plastic ones. That one went quicker than I expected. There's my firefly candle. I think I'll continue the design on this page. I was thinking of putting this over in the white space above the moon, but I really want to put these other moths and butterflies on top of the sky in a straight line because I just really like the way that looks. So it's going over here, so I don't have to cover up any writing. And there we go. I'm really happy with how that all turned out. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this too.